Right. Now, these are the ideas that we have discussed. To conclude, we discussed a couple of ways we can represent a dictionary, how to add items, how to change items, and how to delete items and so on. Right. So with that, we'll move to string. String actually is special. We can take it as a special data structure because now string, in a way, we can see them as a list of characters. Right? So in this part, we will see how we can manipulate strings, and mainly I want to discuss the ideas of forward indexing and backward indexing, which we will discuss in the list. We start with 0 and 1, 2, 3 and so on. That is what we call forward indexing. Similar to that, we can come from the last character or last item, which we indicates as a -1. Then we can say -2. So this is we call backward indexing. So for example, let's say we have a string dialog. Dialog we can represent as a set of characters, and each of these characters we can access using an index. Right? Now, for example, if you want to access D, capital D, so we can use a index 0. So just type this command. You can say S, you can put S and then as a string type dialog, and just then print S note. As S note. Then you should note that it should print D, right? So let me say S dialog. Let me print S note. But remember, strings are immutable, which means you cannot change. You cannot change any values in S, but you can actually manipulate. Manipulate in the sense that you can take substrings, part of the strings, you can get it. Now, if you ask me like why this is important, again, remember I told you like we can read what people talk about our products. Then, so people write in sentences, we can break the string or the paragraph into pieces. So we should know this technique. And this is the same technique we use to get the part of data as well. So when you want to access data, sometimes you don't need the whole data set. Yes? When you have millions of records, are you going to load the millions of records? No, right? Because first, whatever the analysis, what we can try with the sample of the data set. So we should be able to take some sample from our population. So the same technique we can use there as well. So therefore, let's start with this one. So try others as well. So for example, if you want to access the last one, then you can say -1. So for example, if you say print S -1. So what it means, when you say S0 and S minus 6, both are the same, right? S0 and S minus 6, both are the same. Similar to S5 and S minus 1, they are the same. If you want to access the first element, which method you are going to prefer? Is it forward indexing or the backward indexing? First item. Let's say if you want to access first item, which indexing you are going to prefer? Forward or backward? Forward, 0. You know that 0 will be the first row. If you want to access last item, backward, right? Minus 1. In data sets also the same. If you want to access the first row, we go for forward indexing, 0. If you want to access the last row, we use minus 1, right? Remember that this is very important, although we do with the strings. So let's move to the next one. This is very, very interesting one. This idea is called slicing. Although we use slicing for strings, this could be also used in data as well, right? So the idea is like this. Now, let's say you want to access part of the string. Same idea, part of the data set, right? Although I'm going to teach it here, we will again work with this with the data, but here it's very simple for me to, teach you that, right? Now, for example, the idea of accessing parts of the string, there are 3 parts. Maybe I will use 4. Right. So make a note of this, very important. Like in range functions we have discussed, we will have, when you take the part of the string, there are 3 parts. Right? You will have start, stop, and then we have step. Right? So if you want to have, right, if you want to access everything from beginning to the end, so usually we can say we will have 0, which is the first value. So for example, when you say the first item, right, it goes like this. When I say S 0 to 4, that means we have 2 items, right? So that will indicate start and stop, right? If you have only the last item, that will indicate only the stop, right? And if you have something like this, let's say 3, 6, 2, it has start, stop, and step. Pretty much same the range function we have discussed in the for loop, right? Those who are not here, I will explain. Now it's like this. I told you that these 2 values, when you have 2 values, it represents the start and stop. Start is 0, stop is 4. That means this will represent 0, 1, 2, 3, not including 4. Right? Remember, make a note of this. Not including 4. It goes up to 4, not including 4. So then, the second one is if it is just the one number, so that specify the stop. When there's no start, we assume start will be 0. Not assume, start with 0. So again, this will be the same. 0, 1, 2, 3. Yes? Last one. Now start, stop, and a step. So that means you start with 3. Then the next item is not 4 because there's a step, right? So that means 3, then after 2 you will have 5. You have 5. 7, it's not, it should be within 6, right? So therefore, you have 3 and 5. Now let's try all these. Now I can explain. So when I say S, when I say print S 0 to 4, it indicates 0, 1, 2, 3. So that means we have 0 is D, then 1 is I, 2 is A, and 3 is L. Right? So we get part of the string. You got the point? So the same thing can be done, or we can get just by typing this. Why is that? Why is that? We don't have to represent the starting value. So when you do not mention the start value, it will always start with, right, 0. The second one is a very interesting outcome. Why is that? So it's like that. If you need 4 characters, you just put 4. If you need 5 characters, we can put 5. If you need 2, we can put 2, right? So let me put 2. If I put 2, it will give us the first 2 characters, right? Yes? So in the data set, if I need first 10 rows, what should I type? If this is my data set, if I need the first 10 rows, yes, we can say colon, and I can type 10. Right? Okay. You will see. I mean, I will reconnect this when I discuss with the data sets. So you will see. You got the idea? Yes. Right. There are a few things that I can talk about this as well. Now, similar to that, let's start with the next one. So can you guess what is the outcome without typing this? If you put 3 and 6, what is the output from the string? Zero, 1, 2, 3, right? We start with 3, 4, then 5. Outcome is log, right? Log, log, right? So you should get log. So it's like this. So when you say print S 3 to 6, remember the 6 is the last item, right? We put it like this. The same thing we can get if you type S like this. The idea is, if you put in this form, it will get everything. This can be, I think if you are using even the Excel, you do the same, right? When you say a cell range, let's say D2 to D10, it's a start and a stop. But if you put like D2 and a colon, starting from D2, it can go up to anywhere you want. See, same idea is used here. So what it means, it starts with the index 3 and goes up to the end, right? So it's the same as in a data set. We want to start from somewhere and we want to get the remaining part of the data set. We can use this technique. Right. Understood? Yes? No issue? Remember, we have a quiz, huh? At the end. So I'm going to see how far you have got from the session. Right. The next one. So let's say if you put this, what is the outcome? If you put 0 to 6, which means the whole string, right? It print dialog. So same thing we can put it in this form. I am actually putting shortcuts and you will see lot in these codes. If you see just a colon, right, it means everything, right? So make a note of this, right? If you see the colon somewhere, so it means everything, start to the end. Actually you can type like this, but it's not necessary. Usually start and stop, you don't have to, put explicitly, you can omit. So that's the idea that I want to discuss. Right, okay. Shall we move to the fourth line? When you have 3 values. Are you clear? Yes? I'm assuming it's clear. Yes? No? Getting a bit difficult now? No? Sure? Okay. Right. The next one. When we say 3, 6 and 2, I already explained. Start with 3, the step is 2. So we will have index 3 and 5. Right? It will tell us LG, right? Okay, I will give you a small exercise. In that string, if I want to print every other character, what would be the code for that? If I want to print every other character. Yes? If I want to put every other character, that means we need D, then we need A, then G, right? So what is the code? Can you tell me? So this is the string. If I want every other character, my question is, what is the code? 0, 6, 2, right? So 0 is start, 6 end. So if you omit those two, will it work? Will it work? Yes? Try. So the code for the previous one is starting value is 0, the end value is 6. Since every other character we put the step is 2. Yes? So in a code, if you look like that, now you should understand what is going on. Right? And if you didn't put anything, what will happen then? Yes, what will happen? Yes, the default value. So when you do not specify the values, I told you, like, if you do not specify the values, if you didn't specify the values, right, start will be 0, end will be the last item, step will be always 1. So we didn't specify anything at all, which takes the default value, goes from start to stop with a step of 1. Right. If I want to print everything backwards, how should I write? If I want to go from backwards, going backwards means 1. We start with -1. This is -2, -3, -4, -5, -6. So we can say S. We'll start with -1. Should goes up to minus, this is 6, right? Then the next one is -7. The step is -1, then -2. Step is again -1, isn't it? Yes, try that. You will get the string in the -1, -7 and -1. Yes, I told you start and stop, you don't have to mention, right? So if you remove that one as well, so in a data set, if you want to change column order backwards, so this is how we will write the code, right? Are you clear up to now? Yes? Right, now we have discussed two things today. The first part we discussed about the dictionaries. Remember? Yes, okay. The second part we discuss what called substrings or the slicing. We use the term slicing, very commonly used automation, especially when you work with the data. Right. Now, before we continue the next steps, which is the libraries for data analytics, I want to briefly discuss object-oriented concepts. If you are not done programming, I don't think you have catch up on this idea. But you understand the basic concepts will help us to use already available libraries, because some of the things written using these ideas. Right? For example, when we take list, right? It's a class, we call it, right? And then under that, you have seen some methods. So, for example, to add an item to the list, which method we have used? Do you remember we use append? Yes, okay. So that means we use the list name dot and we said append, and which will add. So these ideas actually came from the ideas of object-oriented concept, which is one of the paradigms in programming, right? So which means when we want to represent things, maybe persons, we can represent using these object-oriented concepts, right? So which we are going to discuss and briefly discuss how we are going to make use of them. Right. Now, the object-oriented programming, basically this is one way of design programs, and in software which is commonly used. We use two main things under this. We call classes and the objects, right? Now, when we talk about the classes, it's like a template, right? When we want to build a house, right? We make a plan, right? And then, based on the plan, we can build many houses, right? Same structure, similar idea. So the classes will give you an outline. What, for example, attributes you have, what methods you have. For example, in lists, we have append to add items, right? And then we have insert to add any VI in the list. Similar to that, when we create classes, we can decide what methods we are going to have, right? Similar to that, we can also keep track of data as well. So this is the typically what we are going to represent with object orientations. So usually we have what we call the instance variables. Now, for example, I can create a class to represent each one of you, right? So I can name a class employee, and I guess you have your employee number, right? You have name, you have address, other information, I don't know, specialty, right? So these are what we call the instance variables, where we can have some values. And depending on your job, you perform different actions. You do different things, right? So those are the methods. And when you take like two different employees, they might, use different methods. So all these we can list under when we are defining what we call the classes. Right. Now I'm going to, just to give you an idea about what a class is, we'll take a credit card, right? So we are going to represent the activities we perform a credit card using these variables and the methods. So you know that when you get a credit card, usually credit card issued for a customer. So we have a customer name. I put it as C name. and there's a bank who issued the credit card. We have a bank name. And usually there will be an account which, so for that we have account. And then in a credit card you have limit. And then you have balance. You make purchases, so you have a balance. So any of the credit cards you have, I guess you can put it here, right? Isn't it? Yes? So it's just a template which will list out all the variables we can have. And if I take each one of your credit card, you have values. Customer name is your name. You have bank name. If you have multiple credit cards, you can have multiple bank names, right? And you have account number, you have a limit, and you have balance, right? Okay. And the second one is a method which we can use using a credit card. These are the methods we define, right? So get customer, get bank, get balance is to get information about the credit card. Get customer is a method we can use to get the customer details, customer name. We can get the bank details. We can get the balance. So this is just to get some only information. Purchase, we use credit card to purchase items. The price is what we are going to pay. Let's say you are going to get some clothing. So there will be price 10,000. Should be, when you spend, it should be deducted from the limit, and then you have a balance. And then you have to settle your credit card. So for that we have a method. So as you can see now, the classes is kind of a template where we can have all the instances and the methods in one single place, right? Which is helpful for us to represent the credit card, and we can then, when we in the program, we can create any number of credit cards, any number of transactions, we can see what is going on, right? So actually I will give you the full code, but I'm not going to spend time, but I want to give you the basic idea how you may actually use the methods, right? Some more examples. Let's say we create a class called person. The person can have variables like name, age, address. We can define things like walking, talking, breathing, money. Those are kind of a method we can define. Let's take an email. We can have recipient list, subject, body. Those are like the variables. And then we can have methods like adding attachment or sending an email. Of course, we have to write the code how to perform that. A car, we can have variables like year, model, mileage, and then we can have methods like accelerate and brake. Right. Okay, so now you have classes which is the template, and then we can create, using the, let's say this is about a car, we have a template, we have a design, then we can create any number of cars, isn't it? Those are known as objects with different colors. Yes. Now, from the class, to create an object, we need what we call the constructor, right? So the constructor will help us to create actual objects using the classes. But one thing you need to remember, all the objects will represent the information we define the class, which is very important. That means consistent. So when we say a credit card, all the information that we have put up in the beginning will be available, isn't it? So then it's easier for us to, design a system, right? Interactions. Right. So I'm going to skip this and I'm going to discuss how the implementation. Now, when you look at the codes, the help, usually you might see this word self, right? The self is actually a keyword we use to represent the same instance, right? So which means you are going to apply for the same instance. So that means when you are defining methods, we will use self. So let me explain with the example. Right. To explain this, let me take this simple, very simple code about representing a student. So what you see there is a graphical representation of class. So the name of the class is student, right? And we have attribute name. And we have two methods. What are the two methods? We have get name and then study. Okay. So in Python, we can create this structure using class student, right? So that will create the template for the student, and then we can initialize his name. So this is sometimes called constructor. So what happens is during initialization, that means when we are creating the student, we'll get the student name, we'll assign to this variable. So let me quickly come to this one. This is the place where we create a student object. We said it's S1, it's a class of student, and the student name is Saman. So what happens when you put Saman? That name Saman will assign to variable name, right? So when you want to access the value, you can say s1.name, you can access the name Saman. Similar to that, within the definition, you can see the methods. So what are the methods now? We have get name. When you say get name, you see now self keyword because it refers the same object, right? When you say same object, we are returning the name of the student. So self.name means we are returning the name of the student object, which the technique we can get the name. Similar to that, when we say study self, it will represent the value study. Right? So what you see here is the class definition. So here we assign the variables to the instance variable we have created, and here are the methods. The last part, what you see is creation of students. So we have one student called S1, student Saman, and when we call a method S1 to study. Right. I think we will try this and we'll create a couple of students and try to understand how we can call the methods. The same technique we use when we are using classes in other places. Right. So let me take a code. Okay, yeah, sure.
Or later after you.
No, I think before this, I think we better take a break because this will be a bit difficult for them.
Okay.
So definitely we'll have a break and then we. Yes, let's have a tea. Then after that we'll continue. Oh yes. Oh, what's up? කෙනෙකුට නෑවල තියෙන එක යසස්ට යසස් වල නේද මොකද මේකේ තුන්වෙනි ක්වෙස්චන් එක තව ඕනනම් කියන්න මගේ අර අනික් එක තියෙන එකක් ඇති වෙයි යාලට. මම මේ මේ ක්ලාස් එක කරා. ආවද බලන්න. ඕම් බලන්න පුළුවන් බැරි. right හරි බලන්න. You are DVT and you are?
Unsaved data.
We have not communicated.
What's your name?
I'm Samba.
So, you must have been in touch with Joel.
Okay. No,
So it was you coordinating.
I'm only coordinating with and this is first time we are meeting.
Okay. But both of you are from Dialogue?
No, I'm from University of Therapy.
Oh, okay.
So, as an external resource person,
Oh,
I'm
right. So, why don't we have
Yeah,
a
sure.
team?
So, Dilip, you are here for the first time?
No, you said
Second time. So, when you have sessions like this, you come here. අහලා මං එනක වෙන්නේ නැතිනේ. හරි. මොන නින්දද මම දැන් උදේ බෑ කියාවේ. මේකනේ. ඒකට ඉතින් අමාරුයි ඒක. ඉන්න. අද ඉන්න ගොඩක් ඉන්න. එතන ඒ පවුල තියෙන. මගේ ගොඩක් බෑග්ග්‍රවුන්ඩ් එක තියෙන්නේ ප්‍රෝග්‍රෑමින් පැත්තේමයි ඒකයි මේක මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගොඩක් වෙලාට ටූල්ස් පැත්තෙන්නේ ගොඩක් මේක කරලා තියෙන්නේ ටූල්ස් පැත්ත මගේ හරි අඩුයි ඇත්තට මොකක්ද ඒකේ දැනගන්නේ
නෑ අර දැන් අර අපි Power Automate යූස් කරලා ඇප් එකක් ඩෙවලොප් කරලා තියෙනවා දැන් මේකේ ලැග් එන්ඩ් එකට data collect කරන්න යූස් කරලා තියෙන්නේ Microsoft එකේ අර Dataverse tables Dataverse tables ඇවිල්ලා ප්‍රීමියම් කනෙක්ට් එකක් normal connectors තියෙනවා like Excel SharePoint Dataverse tables කියලා කියන්නේ ප්‍රීමියම් එක දැන් මේක පොඩ්ඩක් අර දැන් අදකෝ අපිට දැන් ඩිප්ලොයි කරන්න දෙන්න ඕනේ යූස් කරන්න දැන් යූසර් යූස් කරන්න මම හිතන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන් වෙන්නේ අර
ප්‍රීමියම් එක ඇලරන්න නැති හින්දා
ප්‍රීමියම් එකක් ගෑවිලා තියෙනවා
ඕකේ
අර data පැත්තට so මම හිතන්නේ ඒකට දැන් මේ ප්‍රීමියම් එක යූස් කරන්න එයාට අර යූසර් ෆී එකක් වගේ මොනවාරි සබ්ස්ක්‍රිප්ෂන් එකක් දෙන්න වෙන ලයිසන් එකක් කරන් ප්‍රීමියම් කැපැසිටි ලයිසන් දැන් ඒකට මොනවාරි work around එකක් හරි
තියෙනවා නෑ මම මේ පැත්තට නෑ මම ගොඩක් වෙලාවට ඔක්කොම මගේ open source
නෑ ඒක නෑ open source නම
open source
අපිට අර open source කියන බෑනේ data
okay එහෙමම නෑ ඉතින් ඒ දැන් බෙදේ තියෙන්නේ අපි open source
අපිට මම හිතන්නේ දෙන්නේ නෑ governance පැත්තේ
ඒකයි
මම කියන්නේ අර එළිය තියෙනවා මේ අරක data
අපි අද හවස මෙයා එරන් දෙනවනේ එරන් දෙන්න නෑ මම එච්චරම tools කියන්නේ මම hardcore theoretical පැත්තේ මගේ ගොඩක් නෑ ඒතර ගොඩක් මගේ research පැත්තට තමයි ගොඩක් මම වැඩ කරලා application පැත්තට වැඩ කරලා තියෙන හරි අඩුයි කියන්නේ අපි companies එක වැඩ කරලා තියෙනවා නිකන් research and development පැත්ත තමයි ගොඩක් වෙලා හැබැයි මේවල තියෙනවා දැන් මේවල එහෙම දැන් හිතන්නකො data app එහෙම තනිකර දැන් notebook එකට connect කරන්න චූටි tools තියෙන දැන් උදාහරණයක් විදිහට bottle එකක් fill කරලා ඔය අපි කොහොමද prediction එකක් කරනවා parameters ටික දුන්නට පස්සේ එනවා කියන එක මේ චූටි app එකක් කියන්නේ හිතා ගන්නවත් බැරි සිම්පල් විදිහට දැන් අපිට deploy කරන්න පුළුවන් මම time එක තිබ්බ මම චූටක් කියන්න ඒකේ තියෙන tool sets වගේ මේ අපිට කතා කරා අරකමයි තනිරන්දට වඩා කතා